All right, we're going for it. It's a little bit early today, but I could sit here for 7 minutes or I could answer some more questions. And so I'm going to answer some more questions with my rad hair that wanted to dry this way from wearing some headphones while listening to stuff this morning. Let's see here. First things first, how do you gravel vac a under gravel filter? I put out that video on Friday on how to gravel vac. When it comes to under gravel filter, I wouldn't say that I've got it all figured out. We did run them for many years at the store. I've run them at home. From what I can tell, the way I've been running them is I basically just put the gravel vac down all the way to the plate, let it pull as much gunk as it can, do the rows like you're mowing the lawn, and that's worked really well for us. Some other tips, I don't know about tips, but other things you can do. You could sometimes, if you have we have linear air piston pumps driving the air both here and at the shop. You can crank the air, and that will create more pull and put some of the gunk back into the tank if it can't get all the way there. But we didn't do that. I've only noticed that from sometimes making an adjustment and then going, oh, that just put a bunch of gunk in there, and then we gravel vac it out or something. Not at the store here at my house. I had that happen just the other day. So, yeah, I'll do some notes that, I said I'd answer some questions about gravel vacs. I answered some in the comments. And a lot of people were asking, well, what do you do with something like an aqua soil? And the first thing I would point out, I guess, would be that's why they're called gravel vacuums. Is they're meant to, the device is designed to do gravel. When it comes to fine sands or aqua soils, the best you can really do is kind of hover over the layer, the substrate layer, right? And so if you have a carpeting plant or the substrate layer, you can basically lower that siphon down, and eventually you're going to get to a point where it's close enough and it's going to start lifting debris off the top without lifting the sand or the aqua soil. And that's a fine line. If you go all the way down, you're just going to suck up a bunch of stuff, and you don't want that, as in stuff as in sand or aqua soil, but maybe an inch or inch and a half. And there's no golden rule there because it depends on the amount of suction you have. And so going into a bucket or a tub or a garbage can, you're going to have way better suction on average than running it back to your sink with like the sink adapter. And so depending on which method you're using is how far away you'll need to be. Also, if you're using a gravel vac with a tube that's 2 inches, that can get closer than maybe one of the mini gravel vacs that has a narrower tube. That's going to increase the suction. You have to be further away. So I was checking in, making sure that sound and everything works. I am in the state that I hate to be in, and that is where I have one camera because my other camera still, I probably need to send it in, but has not recovered, and means I have to take this camera off all the stuff, unplug all the things, go do the video, and then come back and hope that when you hook it all back up, everything's still synced the same. In fact, it wasn't. I had to resync the audio a little bit, and so once the other camera arrives, I can sync the audio perfectly and never touch it again, basically. And then an update to the computer or something will happen. I'll have to resync it again. But anyway, how's everybody doing? I'm doing pretty good. Sunday, my start of my work week as it is. And you guys read a comment. Do you think he's going to start selling a water vacuum or a gravel vacuum? We definitely plan to at some point. We've talked about it for years. I'm actively working on it now, but it could be another year away. Testing different features, and I was explaining this. We had our little aquarium group meeting where like 6 people show up. They were here this time, and I was talking about how it's the hardest things to design and work on are the most simple things, just because there's not a lot to change, because it's like, oh, we have a tube and then you have a smaller tube and water goes through them, and then like how do you change those things? And so optimizing tube length, tube diameter, both diameters, anti-clogging. There's some things you can do, but a lot of little tests. What's the right length of tube, all of that. So, um, still actively working on it. Did I see the uploaded video from Wishlist yesterday on the undergravel filter with tracer dye? Yes. Thank you to everybody that sent that to me. I've been bombarded in email, in the forum, in comments. Yes, I did see that. I always like to see people doing testing, so kudos to him for doing that. I what do I want to say here? Because I don't want to be negative about it, because it's easy to be negative, but it's hard to do video and do work. So instead, what I'll try to phrase it. I guess I want to preference it with like, awesome, good job. Then I would follow up with, I'd really like to see. I would have liked to have seen the same air used for both tanks. Like, being someone who runs tests like this myself, oftentimes it's many days of work to get the test to do the thing I think it needs to do. So in this instance, if you haven't watched the video, what he does is he uses some dye, some tracer dye, to see the flow pattern of of our underground filter specifically in two different tanks. And so I think he used like a sand and he used a gravel. And I think we would all think, oh yeah, the gravel's going to have a faster flow or something like that. And that's not the result he got. And so usually that leads me down a big rabbit hole of figuring out, why am I getting a result I didn't expect? And I personally would want to see it eliminated, that the airflow on the two tanks was different. And so I would have tried swapping them, or just using the same air hose for each one, because the testing was done independently. It wasn't like they were run at the same time to capture it. It was do this tank, then do this tank. And so from the different testing I've done over the years, and the feedback I've gotten from all the commenters is, basically eliminate as many variables as you can, and the substrate being the main variable there. And so, my wife's listening. Don't bring me anything to drink. I just honestly had to clear my throat. And so, I think there's probably just something slightly different between the two airline hoses. I've got a video that I haven't made, and part of it is it's a video like this, in that, if you're going to try and deduce something, I want to try and show it and repeat it and do it multiple times, which he did as well. But if there's any length difference in the tube, or any adjustment difference in the valve itself, sometimes there could be little blockages and things like that. And I guess where I'm going with all of this blabber is, I want to make sure I don't lead astray, because his video's doing well, 10,000 views. I don't want to lead astray a bunch of people because something in my test setup was altered and not optimal. And then the whole internet's going, hey, this thing, I saw it in a video, it's doing the thing. And then you find out 8 months later, like, oh no, this was causing a different flow rate, and therefore, what we now know is true may or may not be untrue. It also could be that you get the same exact results, and if we do, then that's even more interesting. Going, wow, okay, so and I read a bunch of comments. Some people said, oh, it's the weed block doing this and that. I don't know, but it's cool to see, and it definitely was like, someone's finally doing it. So yeah, I think seeing testing being done is good. I hope more people do it, because if you document how you tested it well, then it prevents people from like having to do the testing. And that's kind of, we do that a little bit, I would say, in our data nerd videos, where they're way too long. Like, we're trying to do the TLDR, this is the result, and then it's basically 30 minutes of data, and here's all the things we tried, so that there's less, well, what about this? Well, what about, hey, did you think about, what about? And, there's a million variables, like so like, using it's much easier to use someone else's video as an example, by the way. Um, Using that dye video, there's other questions too, like, well, what if the flow was higher or lower, right? So, what if I had very low airflow? Does the undergravel with gravel perform differently than the sand at that point, right? Um, because I know that, like, for instance, on on our sponge filters, if you turn the air up too much, they actually work worse. And people had a lot of good points of like having the water discharge out of the tank, because like the flow in general was mixing the water, but I have to imagine it's very hard to isolate where that dye is, get the water flowing out to see. I can think of a way, and this is how all these experiments go, by the way, is you do a thing and then you go, wait a second, there's another way to do this, and another way, and another way, and then Dean gives you a way, and then Randy gives you a way, and then the comments give you 5 ways. Like, I can think of one right now, like, what if you had an undergravel filter plate, right? You had a 10-gallon tank, and this much of it had a divider all the way down to the undergravel plate, and like you siliconed it to the plate, right? You fill it up with water, and on this end, right, you've got the overflow, or not the overflow, the outflow from the undergravel filter. And then if you put the dye in on this side, would it even suck it through? Or would it only, like, the thing I want to prove, for instance, is you have a undergravel filter plate the whole length of the tank. Is it only pulling from 3 inches away? Is it evenly pulling through the whole thing? You know, I'm sure there's a lot of variables to it, but where you put that divider, potentially you could isolate the outflow where the green comes back in versus it sucking it in, and then you could see a true path. There's other people that suggested, you know, oh, put it on glass so you can look from underneath. And where I'll wrap this part up is all of these are great ideas, and all of them are a day's work. And at the end of all of that, right? So this guy, you know, he's curious, he wants to know what it's doing. He buys the tracer dye, does the work, and it leads to more questions. And this is what studying something is so often I'm trying to solve something and it leads to just even more questions. And at some point, usually I decide, I don't know that I'm going to spend months figuring this out. Have I, like, I would say the biggest takeaway that I would take away from that video is, like, at least one example, I don't think running sand with the weed block seems to be working worse than that. But I actually expect this. Here's my prediction. My prediction is this video did really well, and so it makes sense to do at least one more video like that on his channel, and he could probably take some of those comments and experiments and do that, and then we'll get some more answers. So it's worth kind of watching that develop. Maybe it happens in a week or 2 or a month or something like that. Or it could be like me, and I follow up 7 years later because it's like, yeah, I really want to do that, and eventually I find the time. So, like, I really want to do some more. I want to do an updated video on air stones and air in aquariums. Now that I have better cameras, I know how to do YouTube better. But that's a video that took me weeks to produce. Back then, it would take me weeks again, but I think it would be a better resource for people to look in on. And I've got more questions I could answer. Well, potentially answer. I don't know that I can answer them. I can run the experiment and go, what did that do? And then, yeah. Just place a small aquarium co-op order? Heck yeah. Any order helps. That's right. We appreciate all orders. Not that we necessarily need the help. It does help. But yes, mostly I love it when people are using our things and getting what they need. And, you know, I'll tell people, don't spend money you don't have. Only if you need a thing. You know, if you're going to buy fish food anyway and you want to try ours, great. If you already are setting up a tank and need a filter and you buy one from us, great. If you have a filter, don't buy another one from us if you don't need it. Yeah. I want to try a 10-gallon filter, no tank. What are my thoughts? Totally do it. Yeah. the best way to know whether you're a no filter person is to run one. I also think by running that experiment, you learn so much of like, oh, like a great example would be, I think the first thing you would learn, my guess would be, oh, protein buildup. Like, why do I have this oily film on the surface? You have nothing to break up the surface, and even an air stone could help with that. And so by learning, you can learn things that are going on in your aquarium that you don't know happen and take for granted. So for instance, that protein film happens in every aquarium unless you have something breaking the protein film. And that could be water cascading in from a hang on back, or making sure the splash comes out on a canister filter, or a simple air stone. And what happens is, like, the all of those scenarios make bubbles because this oil like traps air. The bubble pops, and when the bubble pops, the protein, like, think of like when you see like someone's blowing bubbles, right? You can see the oil on the bubble, that sheen. Well, when that sheen pops, it throws that sheen onto things. It could be your glass top, it could be your wall, it could be, aerosolized in the air. But that part now leaves the aquarium. And so eventually all that oily film is not in the aquarium anymore. Well, not in the water anymore. It's maybe on the rim, maybe on the lid, maybe on the wall, whatever it is. And, you know, whether that'll make a difference to you or not depends. Like, there's an aesthetic thing of like, I don't like the look, maybe. Then there's also an air component of like, it does affect air exchange. And if you have a 10-gallon with like, I've got a pair of killifish, like, you'll never have a problem. It'll be fine. But if you're going, well, I'm raising up 72 guppies in there, a whole batch, it's like, yeah, you might run into a problem at month 3 or 4 or something like that, where it's like you physically just need more air exchange. So a 10-gallon tank, 10-gallon tanks are great because you can run these experiments on the cheap. They don't take up a whole lot of room, and if you don't like the results, they're not hard to break down and redo. That's what I love about it. Like, when I go to do this will be like a day project of a big, massive overhaul. A 10-gallon is like an hour or two, maybe, and that's if you're getting real deep into it. So I love experimenting with something like a 10-gallon or 20-gallon, something that's like real easy. I could grab this thing, I could siphon most of the water, I could grab it, take it somewhere, and really break it down or do a thing. I like that size. So highly recommend try everything. That's, I think YouTube, well, I don't know if YouTubers, but me, I get settled in my ways, and my ways get settled in because I've tried everything. And I think my preferences that I relay to you guys make a lot more sense when you've experienced some of the things I've experienced, going, okay, well, Corey did or didn't like this part about this thing. I also agree that I do or don't like that thing. So then when I talk about something else, you go, hey, he didn't like this and I don't like that, but he does like this. The odds might be better that you also like that. And I think we're all just trying to save time from each other, going, oh, look, that's where I want to go. That's how they're doing it. I'm going to try to do it that way. We've got a new fish store that opened this week locally. Besides purchasing from them, what is something I can do to welcome them? Let me think about that. I guess, the most welcoming thing for me when I was at the store and when I was new was, I think, people bringing things like coffee or lunch or, I don't know this store, right? So for all I know, this store could have 100 employees and, everything goes with that. Or it could be a single owner operator, and when you arrive at 10 a.m. and you're not going home till 8 p.m., you're stuck at that store basically. And, a little thing goes a long way. If, let's say it's a new store, you're a breeder, or you're just a hobbyist that's really enjoying it, and you're going, I'm going to go every Thursday, or I'm going to go every Saturday. Kind of figuring out what's their jam, right? Do they want a coffee? Is it an Italian soda? Is it, like for me, one of the reasons I was literally living off of Top Ramen in the back, and I had some great customers that would kind of walk in and they'd kind of see what was going on, And then pretty soon they started coming around like dinner time or something. Like, hey, I brought an extra plate of this, because I live down the street or something like that. And that really helped, and I still talk to them to this day. And it really, it wasn't just like a money thing or anything like that. It's like they actually went out of their way to go like, oh, I know he's stuck at the fish store, and that relationship. It's been a long relationship, a long time now. So I think purchasing is always great. Like they're there to make money, so for sure that helps, right? But if you're looking to stand out and you know, what do I want to say? Like get to know them like a friend, I guess. If you're the person that, oh, I make great beef jerky, and whenever I do, all my friends want some. Great, bring some beef jerky to the fish store. Hey, I made this. Like whatever it is, and that I think that goes a long way. I mean, sure, you can also leave good reviews, and you can say, hey, I'm so glad you opened, and thank you, and all of that. Um, but I do remember lots of those interactions because they were clutch, right? You're like, oh man, didn't have time to stop this morning because I had to go pick up fish, and so yeah. But there could be other things too. I can think of other things like, if they're like when we first opened the store, we were open till 8 p.m. And come like October, it was really dark out. And like hauling the garbage and stuff out was way across the parking lot, and you're new to the space, right? So you're kind of checking out every creak and crack, and making sure you're not gonna get mugged or something. And maybe you're just around at closing time to help. There's a fine line between helping and then also like maybe they don't want the help. So what I mean by that is like, don't just hang around like they want to go home and they're thinking, okay, is this person going to buy anything? It might be like, hey, it's dark out. I'll just, make sure you can take that out real quick, and then I'm out of here. Like letting them know, like it's kind of like when you drop someone off, like I'm gonna wait till I see the door open before I drive off, like that kind of a move. Because at the fish store also, so you also have like if they're running a till, that's the most optimal time that they're gonna get robbed. So that's one of the reasons we don't accept cash is for things like that. And so all of those lead back to like kind of showing you care. That would be the biggest impact I think you can make on a fish store that just opened, because most days are probably going to be pretty hard for them. I know that there were definitely days where it's really easy to get depressed. You got there at 10 a.m., you left at 8 p.m., and you look at the till and you're like, I literally sold $7.22 worth of stuff today. And then you start thinking like, if that keeps going on, I don't know how I'm going to make rent. I don't know how it's going to go on. So yeah. How about a nice big birthday card? Sure, if it's their birthday. I think it's each person though. Like I'm always sad when people give me a birthday card because I go, oh no, you've wasted money. Like you could have bought a cookie. I would have eaten that cookie. I won't eat a card. I've got people in my family that like they love the cards. So, but getting to know the person, I think, is the move. Killer Kitty coming in with 5 memberships. If you just got one of those memberships, you can sync up on our website, save 5% on everything you buy. You can use it in store. You can watch a ridiculous amount of Deep in the Mold podcast. You can watch a bunch of professional speaker talks as well. Yeah. By the way, the Deep in the Mold, we had another one come out. Well, we had 2 come out this week. You got the brand new one, episode number 75 or whatever it was. And then episode number 4 or 5, I can't remember which one it was, came out on Thursday. So if you're a non-member, you can watch them kind of over a year later. If you're a member, you can hear us talk about new and exciting products and things, or just silly stories, mostly that. Gift card to a local coffee shop or eatery, or an Uber Eats card. Yeah, all those kind of work. I still think the physically bringing the thing is better. Like, because like the local coffee shop or eatery, at least for me, I can only speak from my experience. I didn't have the time to go there. That was the problem. There's like a money aspect of it too, but also just like I don't have time. And then the Uber Eats thing, I could see where it's like, oh, but it costs a lot of money, and you could like almost want to save it. So I mean, I'm the same way with presents. When I give a present, I'm trying to buy something for someone that they will utilize and enjoy, and not go, oh, this I'm going to save this, because I want to see them get the enjoyment sooner rather than later, as opposed to, maybe they get that Uber Eats gift card and like, I'm gonna save it till I'm sick, and then I'm gonna order chicken noodle soup. Like, that's still good, but it's like, oh well, I intended to like make this week better for you. Is the Wallstad method a bad way to go for a first timer? Ooh, yes. That it's a controversial answer, I think, because there will be people that will totally say Corey is wrong. Here's why I would say that I don't think it's the good way to go for your first tank. Because if you run into problems, there will be less people that know it well enough to help you. Where a traditional tank, everybody kind of knows how that's supposed to work, and anybody can help you. And now, can it be done? 100% it can. But if I was to take 1,000 brand new people that were going to get into the hobby, would I set them all up with dirted tanks, or would I set them up with traditional tanks? I would do traditional tanks, and then lesson 2 could be like, great, let's do it this other way. Also, I think that it's much harder to change if you go, oh, well, and like with plants and stuff, the minute you put an Amazon sword in the front center and it gets huge and you want to move it, you're kind of bombing that tank. So there's all these reasons why I would say I don't like it as the first tank, but it could be done. But I would never recommend it. I would say, well, let's try peanut butter and jelly before we go to, Captain Insano sandwich. Let's see here. Have I ever grown Rotala rotundifolia? If so, what are my thoughts compared to Pogo? I don't know. I always have a hard time answering these. Like, yes, I've grown it a ton by the warehouse full. It's just different. Usually use a little more light. Uh, in general, I don't like stem plants because they always end up this for me, a giant mess, because if I don't trim them every week, they grow too much. Well, they keep growing too much. They grow a lot, and if I don't trim every week, they look bad after a few weeks. And then, yeah, I guess what I don't like about stem plants, the parts I don't like, I like they grow fast. I like that part, but the part I don't like is I feel like out of every 7 days, there's 3 to 4 days where a stem plant looks good, and then there's an equal amount where it doesn't look good. It's either overgrown or looks like it was just trimmed. You basically like need to trim to a level, get some new growth. Wow, that looks great. And then 3 or 4 days later, it's either too leggy or you're trimming it again and it doesn't look great. Where like an Anubias, a Crypt, an Amazon Sword, they take a while, right? So it's like, oh, they look terrible for like a month. And then they look good. And then they look good for like a year. And then you trim them. And so being as someone that runs a lot of tanks, and I think that might be a big difference between aquascapers love stem plants because they can get in there and tinker with their 1 or 2 tanks every day. And then I've got 30 tanks, and so I don't like that part of it. So, yeah. When I gifted tanks to others as I was downsizing, I included an air pump and a sponge filter and nothing else. I think there's something to that blank slate too. Like if you give all the bells and whistles, like maybe like a car or a truck, if you give a truck that's got all the bells and whistles that someone's modified it, and the person receiving that truck is a person who would want to modify it, you almost don't, because you're like, well, it's already been done. So they miss out on that part. Don't get me wrong, like, oh, it's super cool they got a free truck or whatever. Like, I'm not saying it's not, but there is some magic into, like, I really enjoy the research phase, the learning phase, all of that of before I buy a filter or a plant or a thing. How's that going to interact with this? Should I do this? Should I do that? All of that part's really important. Same with the fish. And then I get the fish, and that's good too. But when you take apart that first part, I feel like I'm missing something. So, what do I think the top fish for 2027 will be? Hmm. I don't know. This year I would have said like cherry tetra, I guess. Next year, what do I think will be? Hmm. My prediction is whatever gets adopted by YouTube. So like we've had phases of puffers where I'm into puffers and other YouTubers are into puffers, and then there's lots more puffer sales. If nano tanks continue on the clip they're on, even more nano fish are going to get popular. Um, I don't think it's any one single YouTuber. It starts that way though. Like someone will keep a thing and they'll enjoy it so much and they'll do such a good job at at showing it off and conveying their passion for it that others will keep it. Other YouTubers will keep it, and if they keep it, then they will tell that same story in their own way, and more viewers will see it. And so uh it's hard to predict like what fish is going to be that. Every once in a while there's like, hey, there's actually something new to the hobby, like the cherry tetra or something like that, and it's like, well, that just wins because it's so good. But then there's the years where it's like, well, there wasn't like a breakthrough fish that was discovered and became available to people. So then it's like, well, where does the YouTube algorithm, or and when I say YouTube, it's Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all of that. Like, social, where does the social media algorithm take us? Jamon says Hillstream loaches, the new crazy colors that are coming out. I disagree. I think they're way too expensive. So 5 years, yeah, maybe. Yep. Like you could say, what about fireball quarries? What about these other things? Like in general, the things that become super popular have to be affordable, because the masses can't partake at, oh, I need six of those and they're $180 a piece. Like here's a great example. Zebra plecos are amazing. Everybody that sees one would like to own them. Why aren't they just crazy popular in everyone's aquariums? The price. And so you have to factor in like, why do chili rasboras and celestial pearl danios, why are they in so many people's tanks? People can afford them. They look amazing and they're affordable and they go in small tanks. And so you got to think through a lot of the factors there. And I think Hillstream loaches have always been amazing. They're still amazing. More species are coming out and they're awesome, but they're hard to get a hold of. They're not well identified. There's lots of mismatches. There's lots of bycatches, and they're expensive. And so I think where we're at right now, so on the timeline of Hillstream loaches, let's say we just spent the last 15 years of just like, it was hard for people to identify like a Chinese Hillstream loach and the normal Hillstream loach that we would say today. And then everyone's like, that's different. Now we're at a point where we're like, wow, look at all these different ones. That one looks crazy. That one looks crazy. That one looks crazy. And they're still expensive. And when you buy them, they're still like, is that one? I'm not sure. And I think we're a few years away from a lot of people breeding them, helping bring the price down, them being better understood and more available at a cheaper price. So, yeah. I'm still waiting for everyone to realize killifish exist. You're not wrong about that. That's I often wonder about that too. They're the right price. They're the right size. They I think pick two or three YouTubers if they really got into them. I think you could over a couple years turn the tides on killifish. But short of that, I'm not sure how to do it because it just seems They seem like they should fit the bill, but they don't somehow. We had sad news in Kingston Thursday. The owner of CB's Nuts passed away due to a cardiac event. I've been told the spouse will continue running the operation. Dang. They make really good peanut butter cookie sandwiches, and they have all kinds of nuts and peanut butters and things like that. And it was always, I mean, I've been there probably 5 times or something, and it was always a stop when we went over the ferry to go there. So if you ever go to Kingston, it's not far from the ferry. Go to that place and have the best peanut butter cookie sandwich you've ever had in your life. It's like $5, but it's worth it. Let's see. I've noticed a lot of fish tubers choosing Pandagara over Ottos and or Cories. They're a good fish. They're way more available than they were. Like, I definitely have seen that over my 20-year career. Things that were like, oh, it's so hard to get a hold of, and you don't see it because it's part of. I think it's a chicken and the egg thing of like, if you're an importer, a wholesaler, something like that, and you bring in a fish and you sell 100 over the course of 6 weeks, you go, maybe I don't bring more of that in. But then at the same time, as a store, you bring in 20, and it takes a while to like grow them out, make them look good, educate your staff, educate the public, get them into tanks, so people will buy one. Okay, I'll try it, and then they keep it. But then 2 or 3 months later, like, I love this thing, I want more. But the ship's already sailed at the wholesaler. Like, oh, they didn't sell very well, we're not bringing in more. But then you got the stores going, hey, we want more, we want more, we want more, we want more. And then eventually they bring in some more. And so it can take a few years to build up a species through the supply chain and training everybody, basically. Employees, customers, wholesalers, importers, everybody in the chain to go, this is all a fish we agree that we're going to sell. Let's bring in more and more and more. Let's do more. Let's do better. And it can take a while to get everybody on the same page. But yeah, Pandagaras, love them. Got them in a couple tanks. Only problem with breeding them is, and why the price is so high is that the fry batches are insanely small, like maximum 5 new babies each batch. Yeah, but there's other fish that do that too, right? So I think that it's a scale problem. Like dwarf claroplecos have batches that size, and they retail for $30, a lot less than like hundreds of dollars for those hill streams. So what happens is, like, you get your group of 6, you finally breed them, you make 5 more. Well, you might be a year or 2 out from them breeding, right? And so meanwhile, it takes like, I don't know, if you're going to supply a massive amount of fish like that, like a pleco or a corridora, or a corridora is a bad example, but some of the corridoras have small batches, like a panda cory or something. It can take 3 to 5 years to build up enough to where you're like, yeah, I'm running 30 tanks. I'm raising, lots of fry. These 3 tanks are breeders, and then you're supplying wholesalers at that level. But at the end of the day, I always reverse engineer, like, how much money does it take to take an egg to a sellable size? And if the answer is it takes $18 and you can get 25 from the wholesaler and it's going to retail for 50, let's say, and you do that 10,000 times a year, that's a career. And that's what people figure out how to do. A lot of people, big batches is good sometimes, but like Dean, if he pulls angelfish fry every week, after 2 weeks, he has more angels than he can sell in 6 months, right? Where if every week they only gave 7, he could pull 7 every week forever and still have more than he's probably going to be able to sell. So, small batch fish aren't necessarily a detriment. Ease of raising up, I think that's a big one of it. Like rainbows, You can pull lots of eggs, but rainbows take forever to grow. I don't know. Okay, a good example. I made a lot of reticulated hillstream loaches by just keeping them in an 800-gallon tank. Didn't do anything special. They lived with lots of other fish that were eating their babies. If you take that same strategy and you go, hey, I'm going to try this one in this pond and just feed it really well, you might passively crank out a ton. You get the right rocks in there, rock piles, and the right things, and you might go, yeah, I harvest it once a year, and I get 500 of them, and you go, great, now I have 40 ponds, I'm making massive numbers. So everything's always about scale, and usually what dictates the scale is the market. Is there unlimited buyers? Great. Then we spin up a whole farm making that. Oh, there's not so many buyers? We don't. And that's a worldwide thing, And so that's where it can take, whether it's a plant or a fish, it can take a long time to spin up global commerce. Like we literally fly and we offer to put $50,000+ down to build an expansion at the plant farm to make this plant so we can sell it. And they still are like, nah, we don't know if it's long-term viable. It's like, but all our data shows, like when we can get it, we can bring it in, it sells out in an hour and a half. Like our data, and everyone wants it. We want it. So it can take, some of the stuff we've been working on for years. It can take a long time to convince people, like the demand is there, I promise you. When switching from an all-in-one fert to a cheap fertilizer, like Leaf Zone, wood switching caused crypts to melt. Had Leaf Zone on hand, so figured better than not fertilizing. I don't think that would cause a melt. What I think, let me back. It could, but what's the timeline? If it was like, oh, I dosed it in and tomorrow it melted down, no, it wasn't that. But if it was like, well, it's been a month or 6 weeks, like, yeah, it could. The problem with Leaf Zone, there's no nitrogen in it. And then also the real answer would be if your crypts, I don't know if they're struggling, but if they're struggling, root tab's the answer. Like you want little root tab buddies in there. Or if you watch my video, like lots of food going in and building up a thick substrate of mulm can help with that. One thing that, that video wouldn't explain is that just because you see a lot of mulm doesn't mean there's a lot of digestible nutrients left where the plant is necessarily. So I could see needing to do a video or something like talking through that of, if you have a bunch of mulm in the front, that doesn't mean the back left corner where that giant Amazon sword is, there's plenty of food there. That just means you have a bunch of mulm up front. You might have a bunch of mulm back there, maybe. But there's a whole video in that of like, typically you have more mulm in the front of your tank than the back of your tank. Why? Because you feed the front of your tank. Most people put the food right through the front, and some of that will fall down, and then snails, and they eat it, and they poop there. And yes, some of it gets carried back, some of it gets eaten back there, but there is a higher concentration of nutrients towards the front of your tank if you're feeding at the front of your tank on average. Quick question about starting a cryptococcine garden. Once the crypts start sending out new shoots, should I put root tabs under each new plant or just root tab the general area? So for me, let's say when I restart that tank, I'm doing underground filter, but if I wasn't doing underground filter and I wanted to get a crypt garden, I would put root tabs throughout the whole thing from day one. Something people might not know is if you take a root tab, I think this one's open. Is this one open? Yeah, this one's open. So if you take a root tab, like this, right? Which, by the way, when we made these, they're twice as much root tab for your money than before. Awesome. When you put it into the gravel, if you don't have a plant there, it doesn't go away. It just sits there. And when a plant finally finds over there, it goes, oh, sweet, there's a sandwich in the fridge for me. And so that's why you'll see Aquascape and stuff do different layers of stuff and just do the whole tank. They're going to plant most of it, but even in the center or a pathway where they don't, there's still fertilizer underneath. And so if you knew you were like, my whole goal is this whole thing is crypts, I would either go with an enriched substrate or a lot of root tabs from day one. Like, why wait for the person? Imagine you have guests and they're like, I'm really hungry. And then you go, oh man, maybe I should go to the grocery store. Or you could tell your guests, hey, there's sandwiches in the fridge. As soon as you're hungry, grab one. I'm going to be busy this week. And that's what you're doing for your crypts. You're like, yeah, the minute you go bloop over there, boom, you're growing. Great. I don't have to notice. Perfect. Gills the Garden says, I did cut back the food at least by half, if not more, and I'm sure they need root tabs. Yeah. So as much as I'm not a huge fan of Leaf Zone. And some, obviously I'm a big fan of Easy Green, sure, but uh, I'm very careful when talking about other products. I don't want to just be the guy that like, oh, it's not Aquarium Co-op. Of course, it's terrible. There are uses for Leaf Zone for sure, and I don't think it killed your crypts. Uh, I think it's just needs more food, and once you feed more, you'll be like, oh, coming back, good. Ooh, a super chat. Those are rare. Had them turned off for so many years, people probably forgot that they were allowed, or didn't know they were allowed. One of my top 3 fish I'll always keep. Funny you should ask. I've been making that list actually. Um, yeah, so I think Trout and Goodeids have made this list because I've bought and sold them so many times. So I don't know if it's in my top. I don't know, like it's in the list. I don't know if it's in the top 3, but clown loaches, same problem. I can never go more than about a year to 2 years without having them, and every time I don't have them, I'm like, man, why do I get rid of these? That's a terrible idea. And so clown loaches, those, and I think guppies in general. Um, I think I always am going to need a puffer in my life. I'm not convinced it always has to be Mabu puffer. But I've been going around of the fish I have in the fish room. What do I want to keep? Another one would be Heteranda Formosa Gold Form. I'm not sure I'll ever give those up again. This is assuming I have multiple tanks, right? If you only have one tank, that changes things. But I've been going around going, what things can go, what things need to change tanks, and what do I want to keep long term? Like, I never want to get rid of this fish. And so I have to have a plan for that type of a fish. And so I've been working on that. And when Dean was over here on Thursday for our little fish get together thing, we actually made some plans. And so, as you guys would know, probably, Dean and I haven't made a video together this year yet. We've been just missing each other over and over and over again. And so our goal is to make one video a month together. That's our goal. And we've got a date set for September. So we're hoping to start making videos together again because we know you guys enjoy it. We super enjoy it. And yeah. So part of that is doing some renovation projects around the fish room. Am I still in the Magic the Gathering? Nope. What about the Hobbits? I don't know. The Magic the Gathering lost me when it's a new set every 11 minutes. Like, look, we've partnered with insert random popular thing here. Let's see here. I don't want to spend all stream talking about Magic the Gathering, so that's why I'm like moving on. I still, a lot of nostalgia, a lot of the time my life spent playing that game. Still think it's awesome. After many months of my shrimp colony not noticeably breeding, I got your shrimp and snail shells, and now after 2 months I see them everywhere in the tank. Coincidence or co-op magic? You decide. My guess is it's just you fed more. So I still am in the camp. So maybe like an LRB is like filterless is the way to go, and that's his thing. My thing is like air stones, and we don't feed enough. And I think particularly shrimp, they want to eat 24 hours a day, and we feed them on average once a day, and that might be enough food for 2 hours. They spend 22 of the hours not eating. And so what the Easy Shrimp and Snail does is it provides a food source for days. And I think once you start doing that, all of a sudden they've got enough nutrients to make more. I'm doing a bad job explaining this, so I'll back up and do it again. Let's say you have 20 shrimp, and you put in a thing of food, and those 20 shrimp go nom 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 nom, and they eat it, and they make some more shrimp, and now you have 62 shrimp. But we, as hobbyists, we typically keep putting in the one thing of food because it works. But now when you put the one thing of food in, all the shrimp go nom 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 nom. But there's not enough nutrients in there for them to make more eggs and make more shrimp. So you go, oh man, it seems like I don't make any more new shrimp. And if you were to add, oh, I'm adding 2 pieces of food, maybe you go, oh, yeah, I have 92 shrimp now. And so finding a way like the Magic Small Fish Feed or Easy Shrimp and Snail to dramatically increase the amount of food you are feeding, you can watch colonies just explode to billions of, well, not literal billions, but like, oh my gosh, there's so many shrimps. And you can do the same with snails as well, and you do the same thing with fish. But in general, we hit a soft cap because it's like, well, that would be too much to put in that tank. I've done experiments, and I'm not ready to like present it to the world necessarily, but I've got 40 breeders that take a tablespoon of Magic Small Fish Feed every day, and they're only shrimp. Everybody, I think they would see that and be like, that's insane. That's a bad idea. That's not going to work long term. It worked pretty long term, and then I wanted to see, what if I added guppies? I made a bunch of guppies, and my shrimp population went down. So now I'm going to revert back to just the shrimp tank and make a billion guppy or billion shrimp again in that tank because they want them for the store. But I do think we fall into a pattern, and with that pattern, we get a result, and we keep getting that same result until we change the pattern. So much so, like, I think I'm going to hire my wife to feed my fish, because she feeds entirely different than I do, with a much different philosophy. She'll feed different foods. She'll feed different amounts. She'll, won't know exactly what I'm trying to do. And when she's feeding and I'm feeding, we get a much better result out of better subjective, a much different result in my fish room. And for me, that would mean, oh, we're making more babies, or that fish is getting more fattened up, or, and so I think it's a tangible thing of like, okay, if I just, she's always fed while I'm out of the country for a month or something like that, and just does that. But it's at a point where I think she could full time, feed fish every day in addition to what I'm doing, and the business would be better off for it. So we're considering giving that a try. Let's see here. Basically, trying to work out a fish room assistant role, which I've tried many times in the past with different employees, and it hasn't really worked out. I think mostly due to proximity. Like, she lives here with me, so that's easy just to like, yeah, just go feed the fish, spend an hour with the fish every day, work on that project, ask me the questions, that kind of stuff. I'm trying to feed 50% live foods in my tanks, and it's not an easy thing to do. No, that's actually one of the reasons why is if she started hatching brine every day, that'd be great. I have the best intentions to hatch brine, but then I get real busy at work some days where it's a long day in filming, or possibly, something in work, or I've got to, I got to go to April's Aquarium, or I got to be out of town for a week or whatever. And someone that could have, she's got a much more consistent schedule than I do. And so, and then also the Daphnia and mosquito larvae, more live foods. And I also think that my hope is that through the teaching her on how to do some of these things, she'll bring a new perspective to it, and it will then help me, like, oh, I should I should do a video. Like now that I just taught you, that was a really good way to explain that. I should make a video on how to do Daphnia or mosquito larva or the brine shrimp or the next thing and she'll ask questions like, well, why does this fish live over here? And it's like, oh, well, it lives over there because it's close to the freezer and it's got to get frozen food. Like that made sense to me. And so I think some of those things that I need to get into video form and I haven't, that are just like I take for granted, I think she'll help identify some of those for me too. So I think it'll be a more than just, oh, you're just feeding the fish and doing this here. It'll help me. So that's my hope. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. Rocking my Aquarium Co-op tee, cleaning tanks, listening to the live. Thanks for everything. You and your team make the hobby awesome. Yeah, I'm loving seeing more and more shirts in like background of pictures at events and things. So the shirts is working. I'm not sure if we've crossed 10,000 shirts given away yet, but if not, we got to be close. I wonder if I can see that quickly and easily. Let's see. I'm curious because I was shocked last time. Let's see how many. Nope, not yet. We have given away 9,574 shirts. Ooh, let me do that math. So that's a lot of money, actually. I mean, you guys spend money to get it, so it doesn't really cost us money. It's just a lot of money in shirts given away. Awesome. 9,574. That's a lot of shirts. I mean, obviously it doesn't tell me how many unique customers or whatever, but yeah. If we do that for another 100 years, we'll clothe the world. Let's see here. Which food would you recommend for us poor souls in the UK that can't get magic small fish feed or the community pellet? Yeah. I don't. Well, I don't know. When the questions like that always get asked, I'm such a value-driven buyer that like it could be easy to say like, yeah, get extreme, but I don't know what the cost is, and so the value might be insane. Like, wow, it's so cheap there, or oh, it's so expensive there. And then you also will have other foods that we don't have, which could be a better value proposition. So I don't have. Okay, the best advice I would have is, as a fish food seller, I don't think it matters as much what you feed as how much you feed and how it feeds. Does that make sense? It's not how much, it's how and how much. So feeding a lot of food in general gets you pretty good results. You can have a lot of cleaning to go with that. The mode, whether it's a wafer, a floating pellet, a sinking pellet, big, small, all of that also matters quite a bit. The physical or like the actual ingredients on the food, while they do matter, most everything on a store shelf is just good now. So while yes, we strive to get the best ingredients we can, that's not everything, right? So like, look at human food. Let's say you made the best kale, not even kale, but just like, let's say we could make a superfood sandwich where it's like it had the right protein, it had the right vegetables, it had all the nutrients you needed. But you wouldn't want to eat that every day, and you still want variety. And so I think that we have the ability to make probably the perfect meal every time for a human, but we don't, because that's not actually the most important part. The most important part is, what form is it? Am I driving and trying to eat? Am I riding a bike and trying to eat? Am I walking and trying to eat? Is it 4,000 degrees out and I don't want a big hearty stew? Is it freezing out and I don't want ice cream? Like, the mode at which you feed is important. How much is also important. And then, yes, the ingredients. Like, don't go, well, Corey said I could just feed my fish gravel. Like, sure, there is a point to it. But at the end of the day, if you're a fish or a human, if fish could just walk down the street and there's all these restaurants, it's not so important what the ingredients are at the restaurant. It's mostly that you sit down and eat and you're no longer hungry. And I think that is the key for a fish tank as well. Is like, sure, they're all varying qualities, but at the end of the day, they're all a restaurant. It's all going to do the thing. And probably as long as you don't eat that same restaurant every meal, every day of your life, you won't run into deficiencies. So, in which case, if that's, I start looking at, well, okay, that's $100 a plate, $50 a plate, $10 a plate, $22 a plate. I try to figure out what's the economy that I want. What do I want to spend? So I wore my co-op shirt to Costco the other day. A guy selling something there asked me if I worked for the company. Nice. Do I know any sources for breeding clown loaches? I have 4 to 5 inch ones, one nice and plump female. Would adding rainwater help trigger a spawn? Looking for sources to breed. What was it? Aquatics? I did a video on it. The guy was breeding clown loaches. Bioaquatics was he no longer has a business anymore. He works for another, I don't know if I'm supposed to say, so I won't say what company, but he works for another fish farm now. And yeah, I'd have to watch the video. Was it just low, like real low pH? I can't remember what the catalyst of like what he said was his, the magic part of it, but yeah, he was breeding them. No plans for Alaska? What changed? The world has changed. No, Alaska and Hawaii disproportionately have bad experiences with plants. I'd have to bring up the spreadsheet again, but they were at like, sometimes depending on the time of year, as high as 7% problems, and we discontinue things that are over 5%. The other problem, so it wasn't just that, because we could just try and go, how could we change this process more? To Alaska and Hawaii, there are fewer shipping options, and in general, it is just slower and a worse path. And so, we were already spending more money to try and get them faster, and it was failing. And so few orders were coming in. I want to say, on average, from Alaska and Hawaii, we average 2 orders from each of those a day. So 2 to Alaska, 2 to Hawaii. Of that, 40% would have plants. So it's less than 1 order a day to live plants to each of those places. And disproportionately having problems just because it would be like, I don't know why that island in Hawaii, it took forever to get there. We just sent a package there a week ago and it didn't. The same mode, the same thing. It just seems to be less, I don't want to say dependable, repeatable. Like, we like it where it's like, hey, we send to this, hey, it took 3 days. We send to this, took 3 days. Hey, we send to this, take 3 days. And 9 times out of 100, it's 3 days. But with Alaska and Hawaii, there's less options and it was less repeatable. It'd be like, oh, why that one took 14 days? That one took 3 days. That one was overnight. What is going on? So that's the reason. If I wanted to use a tote to store water in my fish room for water changes, is there anything I need to add to the tote to keep the water ready and healthy for the fish? An air stone's what I have. Yep, I was gonna say the air stone, making sure that basically you want it to stay mixed and have oxygen in it. Outside of that, I mean, if you had like tons of chlorine or chloramine, you'd have to dechlorinate. But otherwise, no, there shouldn't be anything you have to do. Unless you had your container was, leaching something, which shouldn't be happening. Maybe try to find something for potable water. My Aquarium Co-op shirt was recognized at Dutch Brothers the other day. Nice little interaction. Yeah. I like those little interactions. It's my marketing concept is working slowly and steadily. Slow. Um, where am I at here? Thank you for the advice and thoughts. Looks like Extreme Northfin are available in the UK. Not cheap, but then neither is Vitalis, which is also highly rated. See, my thing is like, which fish food is not highly rated? Basically, like Wardley's. But like, in my opinion, I rate Hikari highly. I would probably rate most foods high, and so yeah, it's more about the mode for me. I think, like with Extreme, if I'm being honest, there are products that I really don't think are worth the money. But then there's things like Extreme Krill Flake. I love that food. It's a good food. Um, where like a sinking wafer, I still think the gold star for a sinking wafer is the Hikari algae wafer. I said it last week and I was like, they are putting something magic in there. The ingredients don't, there's some magic going on. It's either the way they're like mixing it or cooking it or what are they doing? There's some magic in that thing that will make fish want to eat that. And you can have a food that is basically the same thing, but it's missing some kind of magic. And they don't go for it the same. So um yeah, I'm not really brand loyal. Over the years, you'll see lots of things come and go. I'll test lots of things because a brand can change the way they do a thing. They can uh, also you find better things sometimes, and so I don't. I guess that's a weird thing. I don't like in my fish room right now. I'm feeding a lot of our foods, which would make sense because I make the food I want. So there's that. But I've got like lots of frozen Hikari foods. I've got Hikari algae wafers. I've got some Test Extreme products. Those are just because I'm testing, not necessarily. I didn't like buy them. Um, yeah, and outside of live foods, that's what I'm at right now. But if you rewind like 10, 15 years, you'd be like, wow, you're feeding tons of Cyclop E's. Like, hopefully the audience will know this. They used to make a bar. It came in this bar form. It was like a candy bar size, and it was expensive, of just super nice red frozen Cyclops E's. And I love that thing. And I used it for about 6 weeks before like that company either went under or whatever. I couldn't get it anymore. Because I was in this, so then I was doing their freeze dried version, mixing that in foods. But I loved that product. It was real expensive, but I loved it the way it fed out. Um, but for a long time we're using the squeezy bottle food. I don't use any of that right now, although my wife loves it. So that's like another reason why having her feed, because I'm convinced that it's not just we can't just buy the one food like that. Just it's not that it won't work. I just don't think it's optimal. And so I think having multiple people kind of feeding and like, okay, so like auto feeder plus human and a variety. And my wife goes, hey, I think these should eat this size pellet. I go, I think they should eat these size pellet. And the reality is they can eat both, but they're different, right? Do you eat chicken nuggets, chicken tenders? Do you have rotisserie chicken? Like those are all different. It's the same thing, but all kind of different, and you eat them in different ways. So how's the pufferfish doing? I'm convinced he's a stone cold killer. I don't know if he's staying. As I've often said, I love gentle giants, and if he's gonna bite and harass other fish, that's not a gentle giant for me long term. So he's going to move to a 40 breeder, and we are going to put him with some fish. And if he decides that he can't play well, he might go be a mascot at the store and live alone. Because I like big community tanks. Aquarium Co-op Easy Green is the best aquarium fertilizer. I've been using for 3 months, and all the plants in my aquarium are overgrown. The stuff is A++. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Do I know if there's any bacterial colonies that only establish after 6 months into the lifespan of the tank? I don't have any science to prove that. I've got lots of fish room folklore that over my career, I truly believe that the longer a tank is set up, the more stable it becomes and the more things it can handle. Do I approve of that? No. Is anyone ever going to prove it? I don't know. It's a real hard test to run. Like, let me keep running, 10-year tests, break them down, try different 10-year tests. Like, sure, if someone starts working on it today and works on it for 30 years, sure, maybe. They could really distill that down. But I think overall, most of us, we keep tanks until we're bored of them or we have to move. And on average, that for the average tank, that doesn't last 10 years. That lasts like, I think for me, it's less than 2 before I go, I want to change it up. I want to do a thing, or I had to move, or something like that. So depending on what phase of your life you're in, you might be like, I'm still moving every few years because I'm in college, or my job changed, or my thing happened. Um, so yeah, this is my best money farm yet. Uh, I stay hoping that Dorkula will come on the Live, Laugh, Loach with us and the Planted and Enchanted Fridays at 5 Central Standard Time. Well, that's the cheapest advertising, so that's awesome. And maybe she will. Maybe if she's feeding fish and stuff, maybe her big thing is she's like, what would I talk about? I don't have anything to talk about. And so maybe if she, is working, I put that in quotes, like she will be working, but I guess I just feel weird saying my wife's going to work here because in my mind, I'm like, everyone probably thinks it's a giant scam, but she legitimately has worked for us in so many ways for so many years. It just feels weird. I feel like people are judging me like, he's hiring his wife. And the reality is she has always supported us. And, whether she was picking up fish and delivering them to the store, working in the store, worked in the warehouse for a while, she's basically done like every job because when, we were a much smaller company, it was just her and I like, all right, let's do it. She's the one that held the flashlight when we were both sick, standing in the middle of the street to shut off the water because someone had cut the copper pipe and it was freezing the street. Like, the ride or die wife has been there. She's seen it all. And, yeah. Oh no, she does have a love of Halloween. Um, Happy that you're back regularly. I'm thinking about setting up a tank with Florida flagfish and Vietnamese cardinal minnows. Would that work? Would the flagfish fin nip? I mean, they could, but I would put it in the like 90% chance that's going to work. Obviously, tank size matters. If you put them into a shoebox, like, okay, no. But some, I would try for 2 feet or longer tank. I really want to train my brain to start saying, like, I want to use metric. I'm at the point now where I was, like I still stutter. I'm like 2 feet. That's less than a meter. Like, do I even know there's not even a unit. Is anything under a meter just an amount of centimeters? Is there nothing equivalent to a foot in centimeters? Like, is that just like, that's 14 centimeters? There's no shortcut for that? Is that why my brain like shut down on me? Or do I just not know? Because it's a thing of 10 and everything moves on 1,000 except for a meter? Because I was thinking like kilometers, 1,000 meters, and I was thinking milliliters, that's 1,000 liters. But yeah, maybe that doesn't exist. My brain's shutting down. Someone knows. Well, the hope would be that I would say the metric and then also follow up with the easier one for me, and that would be the standard version of feet or gallons or whatever. But it's a stretch goal for me to use it in a meaningful way often. The one that's the hardest for me is clearly Celsius. Like that system, our system, the systems together make no sense to me yet. So, wait, is it a decimeter? Is that a thing? Oh my gosh, that sounds like that's decimeter. I've never heard someone say that though. Are you telling me to describe a 2 foot tank, I should say 2 decimeter tank? I don't think I've ever heard that. I don't know. Maybe my brain will grab onto that and I'm just like, Mr. You need yourself a 13 decimeter tank. Or does decimeter mean two? What does decimeter mean? Am I using that completely wrong? 1/10 of a meter. No, a decimeter is a metric unit length equal to 1/10 of a meter. That seems like the worst. So you're telling me that 36 inches, which is 1 meter, 2 decimeters is 1/10. So you're telling me I'd have to say it's. My brain is not working. 1 inch, 24 decimeters? You're telling me a 2 foot tank is 24 decimeters? Deci is 10. I don't know, this AI thing, it says a decimeter is a metric unit of length equal to 1/10 of a meter. A centimeter. Oh man, this is. 1 decimeter is about 3.937 inches. So 1 decimeter is 4 inches. I'm 1 decimeter is 10 centimeters. Okay. Yeah, okay. I think this AI thing is this. I Googled it and it gave me the arrow. I think it's wrong. What does Wikipedia say? Maybe that. No, this. So the decimeter on Wikipedia is a unit of length in the International System of Units equal to 1/10 of a meter. Wait. A meter is 1,000. No, is 100 centimeters? See, this is why it's hard. I mean, it's in the name, right? Centimeter, cent means 100, right? Yeah. This is, I don't know. I don't know. Is this real life right now? A 2 foot tank is 6 decimeters? What? It. I thought we just established it should be 2 decimeters. Well, apparently no one uses decimeters, so I'm gonna go back to feet and I'm more confused than when I started. 1 meter equals 1,000 centimeters equals. I'm guessing that's supposed to be 1,000 millimeters. I understand like the multiples of 10, but the decimeter thing's throwing me for a loop. Yeah. The word, okay, so here's a linguistic fact. The word decimate literally means to cut 1/10 of the original, not completely annihilate like everyone generally uses the word for. Huh. Funny how language works. Yeah, centimeters and millimeters. I'm on board with that. I got that, but so okay, so still answer me this question, right? Chat. How does the American describe a 20-gallon high which is 2 feet long? Like, outside of America, how do you describe that tank? Do you just say 50 centimeters? Is that what you would say? A 50 centimeter tank? Yeah, I guess you would. That's what ADA and everything is, right? Yeah. But let me know how you would, yeah. I need to make co-op meters or something. Make my own aquarium co-op measurement scale of everything. Did I give Dean my pitbull plecos? Has he bred them? No, Dean literally was here on Thursday. And he's like, "You have pit bull plecos?" Like we haven't been seeing each other much. I was like, "Yeah, they will not breed for you. I have like over a year, I think." I'd say a 60 cm tank. I see, because it's 2/3. It wouldn't be 50. Yeah, I see. Do I see? My brain until my brain understands. So a meter is how many feet? It's like 3 point something, right? 3.28. So if 100 centimeters is 3.28. Hmm. How many feet? How many feet is 60 centimeters? 1.96. Close enough. Okay. No luck breeding the pit bull plecos. What am I feeding them? Mostly misery. They get wafers. They get bloodworms. They get pellets. They get the same stuff that everything else in the fish room gets that they're breeding. So I haven't got on my way to do like some Repashy or something like that. So anything 2 feet or more, I use feet, and anything under, I use centimeters. Hey, there we go. You can call them easy units for the new measuring system. I like this. 10 gallon? Well, that's 10 easy units. 20 gallon? That's 20 easy units. 55? That's 55 easy units. Make it real easy. Oh, that 150? Yeah, that's about 150 easy units. Oh, do you mean like volume of water or length? Both. It's easier if you just say both. Front to back, how deep is that? 150 easy units. Let's see. You're too old to ever get this intuitively. You'll always be converting in your head. Yes, but I can get really fast at converting things usually. But I'm sure I'm slowing down every day as I get older. Do I have a heater brand for a 55-gallon tank? A favorite? No, I'm convinced that all heaters are the devil, and yeah, my favorite heater brand, Mitsubishi, heat the room, or yeah, or don't heat the room and just keep fish. Like every day, more and more people basically message us going, "Hey, I'm keeping this fish at this temperature. Don't let the internet know, but I thought you'd want to know just because it's totally working, bro." And yeah. Have I seen the red muzzle tetras becoming more readily available at better prices? Have not tried them yet. I was thinking of a school. Yeah, we did a sale last month. There was a special buy on them, and we were able to retail them at $9.99, which was much lower than normal for that one special buy. We put a limit so someone didn't come buy them all. It was like you could limit at 10 per person, and they sold out well. But yes, they are the pipeline is getting better and better. So supply seems to be pretty good. We can keep them in stock. Hopefully prices will continue to go down. I mean, I hope that. I realize I make more money if they don't, but I like things to be affordable. I like more and more people to keep more and more fish. So, is there a heater you recommend to heat the room that's safe to leave on when not at home? I don't know. I've never had a problem, but I also don't know that I can advise the entire world of like, here's because there's so many variables: dogs, kids, power, uh, just yeah. So I'll say in general, my favorite way is to heat with something that is meant to heat or to run 24/7 in a home. And so that would be like a furnace or a heat pump. Honestly, I think if I was doing it again right now, I would buy a very, very small heat pump and I would heat my fish room that way. Okay, no, rewind. I would do that. But I do have one, a heater that is meant to run in a house 24/7 that I am confident in. A dehumidifier. A dehumidifier uh, will pull the moisture out while making heat for you. And I have run many a fish room and have helped people run many a fish rooms with a dehumidifier. And you can buy a good one for like $300 and you just have to get rid of the water. So I always plumb it so that it can drain into a sink outside, something so that that thing can run 24/7. And that is my favorite, not my favorite, but that's what I would advise people on. Like, it's doing two things for you, which is great. You're getting rid of humidity and you're heating your fish room. I highly recommend, now having done it, one that sits in the fish room. I've got one in the attic that's a commercial one. I don't like that one as much. I like it to sit in the room. Yes, it adds some noise, but I like that. Yes, that's my number one go-to. After that, let's say if you still need some more heat somehow, which normally it's like insulate better, cut off air better, close the door to the other side of the room, whatever that is. After that, I would be looking at, we're seeing more and more and more and more and more small heat pump devices. Whether it's like a very small Mr. Cool system or a window unit or anything like that. That's what I'd be, but yeah, because you're getting a 2-for-1, you're getting a dehumidifier to dehumidify and you're getting heat, that's a win-win. Then after that, the heat pumps are very efficient, but you're not, well, depending on the mode you run them, you could get some dehumidification going. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and with dehumidifiers, I do strongly recommend springing for the one, maybe it's like $50 more, that has a built-in pump. So it's got like it looks like rigid airline tubing. It can pump that anywhere. So I can pump it to a sink. I don't like the old school ones that when I first started buying them, I had to like put them high so it could drain. So maybe you put them on top of your rack or something, it would drain into a sink or a pipe outside, a window, any way to get it outside, the water that would pull out. Now, what I don't like about that is you're putting all your heat up high, and then you have to like get fans to blow it back down. Where now you can literally put it anywhere on the ground and just pump that water out. And so, and I have one. I was running one in a cargo container. Maybe I'll do a whole video on this that no one will watch, but it'll help the 37 people that are going, how am I going to heat my tanks? And I would recommend that. Yeah. I'm looking at getting a second dehumidifier for the other side of the room. It really does put out a lot of heat. Are you looking because you want more heat or you want more dehumidification? Because I do think there's a lot to be said for very slow moving fans around a fish room. I have 2 going that are overhead. I've got one in a corner that's not running. And then I've got strategic placement of my air pump or air pumps. So they're in the back right corner. At the diagonal left corner, I have a fan, and then in the center of the room, I have 2 fans above to get maximum even temperatures throughout this entire space. Will an airstone work in an inline diffuser like CO2? It could, but you'd have to do one of 2 things. Either pressurize it, like CO2 is, or get a Venturi style system that has a check valve that can't leak. So like you could have it in a canister filter where it sucks air in, or a power head. We have those devices, but I don't think we have one right now that works well for, well, maybe. You might be able to hook up, no, because it would have pressure. So I'm not sure if they make a lot of good ones right now. I also don't like the look of the air bubbles, like making the tank look cloudier when you Venturi it. I'm in SoCal. I'm fighting to cool my room. All right, you ready for the ultimate tip? if you've got the cheddar to spend, get yourself one of the new 120 volt hybrid water heaters. It's a heat pump. All right, you ready for this? To make hot water, it pulls the heat out of the room and exhausts AC. It's a heat pump, just like an air conditioner, just like a heat pump to heat the thing. I might do a video next year. Not that I really need to because I have these, but it's mostly to show people of installing a water heater that's a normal plug-in water heater, like it's a 120 volt plug-in, but will cool this room during the summer, and I won't run the mini splits. So, but they're like $1,800 or something. I don't know. I mean, I have to look, but they're up there, and they're not that hard to. I would just put it in line. So I'd have my one in the garage, and then I'd have the one here. So I'd actually have an extra water heater, which would be good. But then two, like my garage stays nice and cool because of the hybrid water heater I have. I keep my bedroom shut and have an additional portable AC unit and a stand-up oscillating fan. Yeah. Have I seen less people breeding and selling Vienna guppies? Seems like I'm seeing less at stores and online. Yeah, so we're probably in that boom bust cycle. They got really popular. A bunch of people were breeding them. The sales aren't as good. Less people start keeping them and breeding them, and we go down. And then you hit this flat line for a while, but it's still a cool fish. Eventually, the demand keeps going up, and people start doing it again. We see it in so many popular fish where the supply over exceeds the demand, and then you eventually see the demand overtake the supply again. Can you use those for your home water heater? Yeah, I mean, both my house and my fish room, I use hybrid water heaters. So I got my first one when we built the fish room like 5 years ago, and totally works. And then our propane water heater was having problem, and it started leaving singe marks on the outside. So we replaced it with a heat pump water heater, and because we have solar, so makes it free. And yeah, I've been happy with both. Yes, I guess yes, because at worst you could put it into just as an electric water heater, and it doesn't use the heat pump at all. If you're like, oh man, we're all taking 10-hour long showers every day, and I need way more heat. Sure, you can just make it a regular one. But if it works really well for water changes and all that, where you've got a longer recharge time because it can gather the heat from the space around it over time. And so that's okay. So I should probably explain that in a TLDR. A heat pump, the main goal is take heat from a space and do something with it really efficiently as possible. But usually it takes time. And so if I needed to heat this room up to 100, that wouldn't be the best thing to do it in a short amount of time. But if I needed to be 100 and stay 100, it would be very efficient at doing that. And so the heat pump, same thing. If I need 80 gallons of hot water, it's really good at keeping it hot and replenishing like a third of it over time, or however much. But if I needed lots of hot water all the time, like at the warehouse, we use a lot of water depending on the tasks. We have a tankless water heater that is on demand. It's not nearly efficient, but it can do way more. So getting the right tool for the right job, but the fact that you can cool down okay, and so here's a great thing. The heat pump, if it's in the fish room, it will dehumidify and it will cool down your fish room. However, it would cool it down in the winter too, and you might not want to cool it down. So then you might kick it into just the electric mode. But I really think if I've been thinking about this for a while, and I'm trying to like get someone to do it, but I really think it would be a a good addition to a fish room to keep the hybrid water heater in the fish room. It would take up space, but I really think it'd be mm-hmm, mm-hmm. In fact, I'm considering running pipework from here to there and getting way too nerdy with it because that's the person I am. Tyler donating 5 more memberships. Thank you so much, Tyler. Enjoy those who got one. I like the idea of putting fans up high. I'm currently running 3 for circular motion on the floor. I'm noticing a pretty big difference in humidity where I'm looking at it. The heat won't hurt. Yeah, so if you're trying to get good circulation in a room, you want, in my opinion, run the fans at their slowest settings, and you don't want. So what happens in fish rooms, and the store has had this problem. We got so much air moving around that it was cooling the tanks from evaporative cooling, even though they weren't on high, they were on low, and so air moving does cause evaporation. And so the more they're sealed up on top, the better. And then the slower the airflow, the better. If you're trying to keep a room warm and you're just trying to move the air around. The other thing that I've done in a fish room that could work really well for you is those inline ducting fans. We do this at the store too, where basically it's just a fan and you can hook up flexible tubing to either side. And so like you can pull in air from one end of the room or even a different room like we do at the store and deposit it way far away, because you could have a 50-foot run that way and a 50-foot run this way. And if you go another layer deep, you can pull the air from, let's say, the top corner of your fish room where it's real hot. If you've ever been in a fish room, you're standing on a ladder like doing air or something, you're going, oh, it's so hot in here, I'm dying. You can pull that air and you can release it at the bottom under a rack of tanks. We do this in our quarantine room. The warm air gets released right under all the quarantine tanks, and those tanks run warmer than the rest of the store, just because a lot of our fish are imported and they come from warmer countries, and it helps running them just a degree or two warmer. I think it gives a little bit of help. But the fact that we can pull it from a different room high up in the ceiling and then deposit it under the tanks is just a layer of efficiency. And so that's why when I say like, well, it matters how you install things like a heater or any kind of HVAC stuff, because there's the I did it this way and then I do it this way. It's 6% more efficient. Also, connections matter. If you step it down, that's not a good thing. You want to use big pipes. You don't want to put a lot of bends in it. There's all these little things that can really maximize efficiency. And yeah, and I'm trying to keep it easy because there are people that make whole careers and there's very advanced calculations when it comes to HVAC. But for the most part, the least restrictions possible, and think about it smartly. Putting your air pump at the ceiling, like my air pump's on the ground. My previous fish room was at the ceiling. I just don't have a good place to display it here. And so, but I'm considering putting it in my closet over there. So we'll see. Let's see here. Any tips on connecting a water barrel in a fish room to an auto water change, pumps or gravity fed? For me, like if you look at some of my older videos, I used to have like a cistern of water in the fish room. It was like, I think it had like 800 gallons roughly. I pumped it because I wanted to use lots of that water. To gravity feed it, you have to have it above, and I feel like it's hard to store a lot of water when it's above. Because I was changing, I had thousands of gallons worth of water in the tanks. So I always used a pump, and when I refilled it, it was on a float valve, and then it made it really easy. I didn't have to worry about what level tanks were at and all of that. So that's what I did. Whatever happened to Michael from Michael's Fish Room on YouTube? He spoke highly of you. From what I know, he kind of, I think he had some health stuff, then he had some family stuff, and then I think, and I don't know this, but I think like some burnout. I think what happens is YouTube is an insane amount of work. It might not seem like unless you've done it, but it can be an insane amount of work to the point where if it's not getting you enough enjoyment, it just leads to burnout. And enjoyment can come in different forms. It could be I'm having a blast doing a live stream, I'm really enjoying it, and then there's times I don't. I could be making a lot of money and I'm enjoying that, and there's times you don't make a lot of money. And so I don't really fault anyone that quits the YouTube game, because I think almost, well, and I'm going to say this and then there's going to be a lot of YouTube, I don't feel that way. Sure. I think every YouTuber has thought about quitting, like, why do I do this? This isn't worth it. But then there's also times like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I love this. I want to do this again tomorrow. And you'll see people that release a video 5 times a week for like a month. Then you'll be like, oh, they took 3 months off. Like it's super enjoyable and awesome, but you can have too much of a good thing and you can burn out and all of that. So anything got me excited on the forum recently? Any specific threads I'm enjoying? I remember when you highlighted the Charles Keto. I mostly have been taking some time off of the forum. Like I check in, and I do some of the maintenance work, and I've got some fish coming in from it, and I get private messages and that kind of stuff. But I haven't been looking at enough things to be inspired by something. And it's not that things aren't happening, but it's that boom bust cycle of I haven't found where I want to fit it into my timeline yet. Keeping fish simple seems really turbulent right now. No disrespect. Yeah, I witnessed that as well. So I don't watch his videos. I don't watch really. I don't watch. I watch so little YouTube really. But the types of videos that are being made, I see that and I go, I remember being at that spot. You're running a store. You're doing this, and there's always so many things, and I have no idea what's going on in his life. But when you think about it from like the span of a year, he's either engaged slash did get married yet. I don't know. Moved and like bought a building, moved the business, did all that, and is doing his YouTube career, all of that going on. And then there's all the things that you never see behind the scenes on YouTube. And that is like, well, an employee got sick, or they quit, or I had to hire someone, or there's a permit I got to do at work, or a thing. And all of that adds up. And so I'm the best example of failing, in that, what if I put one video out this month? Like, I've worked like a dog the whole month. I was sick. I did this. Sure, we got some live streams and stuff out, but one of my job commitments is to get a video out every week, and I'm not fulfilling that well currently. And there's always things like, oh, my camera was broken. There's a million reasons why things don't happen. But the type of video, I think he's learned. Well, I don't know what he's learning. I learned that a talking head video is much easier to produce than a video where you have to do something. Like, oh, I actually physically have to build the tank, do the thing. And more often, just from seeing what he's putting out, it's a lot more, hey, I'm going to dispel my wisdom and talk about the things I've done, which is usually an easier video to produce than I'm going to do the thing and film it. On average, we find that take a task you do, if it's a 1 hour thing, if you were to film it, it will now take 2 hours. That doesn't include editing. That's just a physical filming of it, because you're like, is this in the shot? Okay, let me do the thing. All right, now I need to show that from a different angle. So you do that little thing 3 times, and you do that for every little piece. Yeah, Keeping Fish Simple got a lot of backlash on that AI video. It also did amazingly well for him. So there is that whole thing of like, oh, I got lots of views. I think what happens is life just happens, and you go through a phase of like, it's the middle of summer and this is going on. I'm going to do this. And then 3 months later you go, okay, now I've got a little more time. I'm going to do that. It's, I think it's real hard to be a YouTuber, which, okay, I realize the irony. Oh, it's so hard, Corey. Yes. I'm just saying in general, any career, it's hard to stay motivated about it for years and years and years on end. And you know, there's always the like, you never see the full picture. The guy at work that's got the job you want, you joined the company 4 years ago, but he's been there 6 years. You didn't see him in what he had to do, the 2 years before he got there to make that happen. And there's a million things. And so YouTube, there's a lot of videos that never see the light of day. There's a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of things went wrong. There's a lot of, hey, maybe you found Aquarium Co-op this year, but it took 9 years for you to find us to get here, right? Because like we've been doing it for a long time, and there was years where it's like, oh, the videos don't do anything, they don't mean anything. So either way, yeah, I think he's just in his element. He's running a store. I think his company, well, his business and everything, I think it's going good. I think it's just that's the way it is. Keeping Fish Symbol put out a very good "What's Going On" video last month. It was a quiet, mature reflection on his past and his future business plan. Maybe I'll watch that. There's so many videos. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll watch that, but I have to have it on in the background while I'm doing things. So, but I can't. So part of my problem is like a lot of videos you want to listen to while you work, but I can't listen to a video while I live stream. I can't listen to a video while I film a video. I can't listen to a video while I'm in a meeting. So I have to like have specific things of work that allow me to do that. And then by the time, then by the time that I'm done working for the day, I don't want to be like, now let me watch a 30-minute video about fish stuff, because I just did that for 10 hours. So I find it hard to fit the fish content into what I'm trying to do during work. I was recently going to introduce some Cardinia shrimp to a low pH shrimp tank. I then spotted some planaria in the tank. It's a 30-liter tank. I put a trap in and caught many. Looks much better. Nice. Do I currently have any Sunset Varias platies, and where should I get them from? I've got fry that don't look like Sunset Variatus, so they weren't being very true, that pair. If you have a PetSmart, for many, many, many years, they would always sell them when they were cheap. I would probably grab some there, honestly. And then if you don't have one that's like right down the street, then look at like Dan's Fish and stuff like that. Do they still have? Does Goliad Farms have them? I can't remember. Goliad Farms. Look at Goliad Farms. I like his fish. I like that they're cheap. The shipping's expensive. So if you buy a billion fish, it's a great deal. If you buy only a few, it's just average. Let's see. Nope, at the moment he doesn't have any of those. He's got red swordtails, green swordtails, some Gambusians, some Amica splendens. So that's a no. Have I ever had a group of Cory eggs that lay eggs but are never fertile? I've got a group of 10 Adolphis that do this over and over again. I'm not sure if I should move them on or try to buy a new group. I haven't run into that, but I know people that have. I feel like I would try to go buy 2 or 3 males, like from a store. See if you can like work with a store and be like, hey, can I put them like in a catch cup and look at them from the top down and try to select slender ones, and then just be like, because if I can get them breeding, I want to sell them back to you. And usually if you've got a decent rapport, they'll be like, all right, come in like not on a Saturday afternoon where we're crazy busy, like pick a different day and we'll spend some time and we'll do it. Let's see here. Oh, what's my recommendation on the further treatment for the planaria? I don't have one. I think like I think it's really hard to keep a tank planaria free long term. You can use some meds, sure. I think you could maybe convince me they're detrimental to a shrimp tank, but I've always made more shrimp than I needed. It wasn't a problem. To me, planaria is like algae. Like, well, how do I get rid of algae and never get it back? I'm like, that's basically impossible. There's no one that can give actual advice that would be a scenario that would happen. So I think managing population, yeah. So I would use no planaria. Sure, do it. Use no planaria, and then a year later, when you have planaria again, do it again. Like it, I just don't think there's a way to keep a tank 100% free of them. And I can keep it where there's no visible ones, sure, but I also don't know how big of a problem it actually is. So, I'm getting close to that point with my habrosis. Coming up on a year of having them, not a single spawn despite endless conditioning. Yeah, could be. Could be water though too. Like I've had species that I just couldn't spawn because I don't like my water. Like no matter how much I've well, I say water, but also no matter what I've done, like all the triggers, all the feeding, all the stuff I've done, it's not enough to get them to do what they want to do. Move on is what I do at that point. If I've convinced I have males and females and all that. Hmm. Everyone's talking about YouTube stuff. I don't want to weigh in on too much because then stuff gets. Did you hear what he said? Taken out of context. MD's fish tanks. Yeah, I think everyone's got to respect the grind. That guy has basically put out a video every week till the end of time on a project. Uh, it's not my thing to watch because it's, but I understand that it works and it's working well for him. And I'm impressed that he basically can do the same thing every week. So he's got some mental fortitude to just go like, all right, let's think of a plan. Let's set up the tank. Let's do that. Next week, let's think of the plan. Let's set up the tank. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's do that. And I don't think I could make it more than a few months, maybe. I don't know. I don't even know if I can make a few months. Like that's not my jam. So he probably likes, doing that more than I do. So that probably helps. Like if I had to do a cooking show every week, it'd be horrible. I hate cooking. I absolutely hate it. But a live stream, I like live streaming. So like I can keep that going longer. It does seem that you need to make sensationalism type content to keep the algorithm happy. I don't agree. I don't agree. There's plenty of channels that do well without doing that. I think it's an easier path to make sensational things. But there's also, if you're really looking into YouTube, there's a huge difference between someone who actually has influence, someone who's a creator, someone who's educating. Like is a video successful that gets 5,000 views that teaches someone how to fix a very specific broken part on their car? I would say yes. But is a video successful that shows someone getting hit and getting hurt and it gets 1 million views? Is it successful? Yes, but in a completely different way, right? Like the best thing that ever happened to YouTube, as far as I think, is shorts. Like it taught me and so many people that views don't matter. In that, like even right now, if you want to make any money off of shorts, in 90 days you have to get 20 million views. So like my channel, if I put out a short and we don't get 20 million views within the 90 days, we don't get any money. And it's because shorts views are worth so little. Like people don't remember shorts they watch. There's no recall there. Like that it's basically useless. And the same thing, a sensational, like if I was to make some kind of sensational video where I launch an arowana out of a cannon, no doubt it would get views. People would be hating on it, people would be loving on it, all of the things, but it wouldn't do any of the goal. It doesn't educate people, it doesn't help us sell stuff. And so, there's a thing that's been around on YouTube for a very long time the concept of 1,000 true fans, and I subscribe to that. Not that channel, but like that idea for so long. And that is, you only need 1,000 true fans that want to support you, share your content, buy your stuff, tune into your live stream, do your thing, want to be a part of what you're doing. Uh, and if you have 1,000 true fans, you basically are successful at that point. You've got if you can imagine 1,000 people in a room, 1,000 people buying your $10 product, 1,000 people super chatting you, 1,000 people. Uh, it's just a lot. But for some reason, we can look at channels and going, they only got 2,000 views on that video. That's still more than any human should ever get. We're all, as a creator, very lucky. As a consumer of content, very lucky that it's free. And so while every YouTuber always wants more views, I think to every creator it's different. What type of view do you want? Like in a perfect world, I want someone that learns who Aquarium Co-op is, what the brand's about, why does it matter. If we release a product, you hopefully watched how we designed it, you saw it get tested, all the things, and that's a way different experience than, for instance, buying an ad where it's like I film a video, I pay you to watch it basically by paying Facebook and that. That's a very different experience. So, yeah. Do I think 3D printing is now a major part of aquascaping? And if so, do I think 3D printing is now a major part of aquascaping? And if so, what items would you like to see 3D printed? No, I haven't seen it at all. But where my brain went was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Are people printing all of like the scaffolding work now for aquascape tanks? Like if you want to make a mountain, are you 3D printing the height you want the platform to be and how to hold the substrate and then putting your rock on it? Like that would make sense. Or are you talking like, oh, we're physically just making decorations? I haven't seen either, but I could totally see how someone who's really into 3D printing could really save a lot of substrates and get perfect heights and stuff on the aquascaping things they want to do by using 3D printing. So yeah, I don't know. But I know I don't think it's now a major thing because I haven't seen it. It could be, and I just haven't seen it. I don't really look into the latest aquascaping things. So I think the UNS Strata is the future of 3D printing. What is this? I gotta look. I see. The UNS Stratum Aquarium Artificial Cervostone Aquascape Decoration. Huh. I don't know what to think about that. I guess my question is, how is this different than other artificial decorations? And what's yeah, I don't know. But part of me thinks aquascaping, there's going to be a love of the real elements there, like an art medium. So is 3D printed decorations the AI version of art, where it's like you still can basically know when something's not AI? Like you can, for some reason, it's like you can tell when something's done real, but on the flip side, sometimes you can't tell AI isn't real. It's like you know it when you see it thing. I don't know. Interesting. Yeah, it's a Strata 3D printed though. From the description here, it says they're doing it from a mold. I have no idea. I know about 90 seconds of this thing, so. So, like, my question would be I have rocks that are man made. Like, let me grab one. Like these are actual ceru stone, but they're man-made ceru stone. So what does that mean? That means they take a chunk of ceru stone that's not visually appealing and they drill out like cores. So you see, these are what I use in my tanks. We sell them at the store. So you see like these cores are drilled out and to try and they chip it off to make points and things so that it now looks visually interesting in some way. Here's another one that's got spider webs because it's sitting on the floor, but like here's another one that so part of it is, let me set this over here. Part of it I think is you want some of the realism, you want some of the individuality. You don't want to just own, yeah, everyone escapes with log number 26943. But at the same time, you want to keep the price down. So by making it, yeah, what I find interesting is the profit or the markups on the fake stuff. Like the stuff at a Petco and a PetSmart, I've seen the prices. It's like, oh, that's an $80 castle. It's like that castle is $3, like delivered to America. It does take up a lot of storage room, though. I will say that. Most of the appeal of the UNS stuff is it doesn't pull actual ceru stone from nature and is inert. Sure. I mean, what's going to blow your mind is most ceru stone is not actually ceru stone, and it's a cast off from mines, and it became like, why did we choose these stones like Dragonstone and ceru stone? Because it's the byproduct of mining, and it was in abundance. I'm sure at a certain point, so much gets used that it could become a problem, but I think at the moment, if we all said, like, I'm never buying Dragonstone or ceru stone again, it's like, it will just sit there in a pile of contamination at this point. So, yeah. And then there's I don't delve into this too much, but like, what are the logistics of artificially creating that rock? Like, oftentimes we find out like, oh, doing the thing we thought was better is equally as bad or sometimes worse than just doing the original thing. Sometimes, maybe it's done in a way I have no idea how it's made. So it could be, for all I know, UNS rocks are curing cancer. They could be solving all the problems. If you could work in a layout program and build a complete unique stone structure and then 3D print it, I might consider not buying rocks. Yes, I think that. I think there's something to nature. Well, not even nature, but just like the idea generation, right? So anyone that's used AI, let's say you ask it to do a thing. If 10 people sitting on 10 different computers all asked, so if we all asked, make me a fake ceru stone, and all 10 people asked that in their own language, if you compared them all, I bet you 8 out of 10 look very similar for the most part, because it just does that. Where if you go and now you look through a giant pile of ceru stone and you had 10 people and you said, everyone pick out your favorite ceru stone. And then you compared all those. They'll all be drastically different. Be like, oh, that's a great idea. That one looks like a cave. That one looks like this. That one looks like a bridge. That one looks like that. And so I do wonder that the artificial version versus the random version, does the outcome of the work, in an aquascape or something, like how much of that matters? I don't know. So... But I saw a piece of wood, like I think it was Wharf Aquatics. They had a rad piece of wood, and I was like, wow, that thing is dope. I would love to have that piece of wood. I would have never thought, I didn't, in my mind wasn't going, I need a piece of wood just like that. Let me go find it. I saw it and go, wow, that's insane. And so I think there's something to the randomness. Let's see here. I need to wrap this up because it's not quite time. I got 3 minutes. Okay. I just saw that it's over 2 hours. I started a little early. That's why. Got some 3D printed plant baskets. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think 3D printing is amazing. I use it all the time. But do I think it's the next big thing in aquascaping? No, I don't. And I also would say, like, where's the line? That gets a weird line of, like, why not just 3D print all the plants? And some people would be like, yeah, I want fake plants and fake rocks, and I just want to look, and I totally get it. Um, if I was gonna say where do I think 3D printing could make a breakthrough, I think it's like the scaffolding, like the stuff under the scape, and then I also think like in a Oliver Knott style aquascape. And what I mean by that is my favorite aquascapes he did always incorporated little animals or action figures or things like that. And it was the idea that was the art. So like, oh yeah, I'm going to get a nice carpet green grass plant and I'm going to put soccer players on it. And I'm going to put the goal there. I'm going to do the thing. Like, yes, that's the art. That's the art part. Um, or the Kiss skull, or the Kiss head, or Iron Man, or the pandas, or the elephants, or all the animals. Like, that was the art part. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is if you use the 3D printing to replace the art, I think the art's missing. If you use it to supplement the art, I think it could enhance it. I think that's what I'm trying to say, but I don't know if that stands up to all the criticism you could put at that statement. But it could be used as a tool to enhance. I'm not sure it's the right thing to replace. I think that's it. 3D printed fish win? You could do it right now. In fact, I still need to print. Maybe I'll do that today. I'll print one of those bubble skeleton things that I think it was either deep in the mulm or here. Someone pointed out my wife still wants me to make one. Let's see. Do I have any advice for a first-time male betta to stop bubble nesting and guarding it? The nest is huge, and the female is ready and confused why he hates her. Both are conditioned with live something. I mean, the betta naturally wants to make a nest and guard it. Are you asking like how to make it so that he doesn't bother her? When are you trying to breed them? Like, what's the ultimate goal? Because there's some strategies there, but it's kind of that like, how do you stop the dog from wanting to chew on a bone? Like, they just kind of want to. Japan has banned the export of some stones. Yeah, most rocks are going to come out of like China and things like that because true Cerva stones are fairly expensive actually, this day and age. But most people just go, I want that look. And then for most people, if you put a Cerva stone and a Guying stone next to each other, or if I mix them up, they couldn't tell them apart. And it's like, yeah, well, one's 10x the price. Oh, well, I'll just take the one that's not. That makes sense. Conditioned with live food, he's been bubbling for 24 hours and he won't accept her to go near the nest. Yeah, I would look into it a little more, but there's ways of like transferring a nest. There's like, are they currently living with each other the full time and it's a big enough tank? I think you could maybe jar him where you lower the water level, you put him in a jar so he can like look at the nest and act like he wants to do stuff and maybe entice her, but can't touch her because she's on the outside and she could lay and do that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's some methods, but I'm not the expert in that. I'm regurgitating methods I've seen. So, but that should give you a way to like, oh, I'll start looking into that. Let me look for some tips around that to see if one of those makes sense for me. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's a decent point to stop. I've probably angered everybody on the planet at this point, so that's probably Sunday Done. Any 3D printer recommendations? Well, I guess I haven't angered every nerd on the planet. If I knew you personally, I would say the only one to buy, in my opinion, would be a Bamboo Labs. And then the nerd across the street would be like, how dare you? I would only use a Prusa. Or how dare you? I'm only using Creality. There's a bunch that would work. If you're the type that wants, like, I want it to be the least amount of problems go wrong, I'd be like, just get a Bamboo Labs. And you might go, but it's twice the money. And I'd be like, you wanted the least amount of problems. You could do it. You could buy a kit and build your own 3D printer. And you'll know so much about 3D printers when you're done that you'll either be the world's best 3D printer, or you'll have given up and you'll never 3D print. You got to decide who you are. I just wanted to do the thing. So I buy the Bamboo Labs. Yeah. It's Bamboo Labs is like the Apple of 3D printers. Like, it's just gonna work. You're gonna pay a premium for it. It'll have decent resale value. All of those things make sense. But you have the people like, I'm Android for life. Like, sure, that's fine. I've I've had times in my life where I've actively used Samsung and Apple at the same time in my YouTube career. Um, Now I'm at a point where, like, I just need a thing to work. If a part breaks, I need it to be easily available. I want to be able to troubleshoot it. I want a video on it. I just want it. I don't love the 3D printing hobby. I love 3D printing. And those are big differences. Like, I own a car. I want the car to turn on and get me to where I want to go. I do not want to work on my car. I am not in the car hobby. I want to just own a car. I lost you at Apple. I lost you with the best possible operating system and efficiency on the planet. Yeah. I'm so weird that I every day I use Apple and Windows products in the same day, in the same hour, in the same workflows. Different tools. I can have this hammer and I can have that hammer. They can be different brands. But if I could only buy one hammer, I'm gonna buy the Apple hammer. I'm a overpay for reliability. Do I think, to be critical, do I think Apple is a worse value than it was 5 years ago? 100% it's a worse value. The proposition was way better when they were gaining market share. Now that they dominate market share, it has gotten way worse value for money. However, I still believe they're doing the best job. Um, I did a bunch of research about 3D printers, then decided the same thing. I want to be able to 3D print stuff, but I don't want to have to do it as a hobby. Yeah. The Bamboo Labs A1, bulletproof, consistent, quality prints. Yeah, I agree. Apple's the only company you've seen that buys technology and makes it worse. You must not be watching. Every month I get an email about a software provider being bought out and they make it worse. Like, that happens all of the time. I also think that it's very easy to hate on Apple by not using Apple products because you don't realize, like, I think to do a true A/B test, take someone who's 75 and then hand them a device, hand them a Windows 11 laptop and a MacBook, and then just tell them to set it up and use it. And I think it's very apparent to be like, it was clearly, and then give them another device and go, hey, set up this tablet or this watch or this phone and have it fully sync and work with your other thing. I think the average person will never get Windows to do that. And Apple will be like, well, I held it next to it and it said if I press this button, it would do it for me. And then it did it. And then that is the experience. And so you have to pay for that 100%. But, like a company perspective, we used to buy Windows stuff, and 30 employees deep, it was a never ending nightmare of incompatibility, problems, this thing's having a thing, doing a thing. When we changed the company to Apple, all of that literally went away. It was never a problem anymore because it all worked. And so, yeah. That being said, every day I use both platforms, and there are some strengths. But every day, the strength of Windows closes down for me. If it had all the games I wanted to play without having to use platforms like Crossover or Parallel or anything like that on Mac, I probably wouldn't have non-Apple products at this point. But because that doesn't exist, I still do. I have an Apple phone, but my favorite tablet is a Samsung. I also think it does matter what your use case is. Like the fact that I need to airdrop to my laptop, this desktop, a tablet, I want to airdrop a spreadsheet to somebody else at the office. I can cast to any of the TVs or at the office. Like just the fact that it all works so that the next person that walks into your office and you have to have a meeting and says, let me show you this, and they just aircast it straight to the big screen versus, I don't know, the permissions aren't right on this. It's not working quite right. That matters. Now, as a home user, that might not matter to you at all because you're going, I'm just one guy with one device. See these corridoras going nuts? They're going to be spawning. Yeah, those corridoras right now, they're spawning. I don't know if you guys can see it, but they're spawning. So I'm going to have eggs within the day. Yeah, easy to get distracted. Anyway, Bamboo Labs is the Apple variety. I am an Apple fanboy. I still buy Apple products. Do I think they're very stale over the last few years? Yes. Do I still think they're the best? Yes. Do I wish everybody got better and it was better value? Yes. Do I think the proposition got worse when RAM prices went up? Yes. Did we just order an Apple product for one of our people in customer service? Yes. Will we continue to do that? Probably yes. Until something changes. And yeah. So when Windows gets better, it's because it becomes more like Apple. Yeah, maybe. I do go through these rounds of like, what would I gain by going back to Windows? And it's like I'd save some money, but I introduce some frustration, and I don't like that. I wouldn't ever buy an Apple product again if I wasn't so invested in iTunes. Yeah. What flip-flops do I like these days? Funny you should ask. These bad boys. I bought an extra pair like over a year ago, and I found them sitting in the closet, and so I broke these bad boys out, and now I'm breaking them in because the other ones were getting crazy worn. These are did I say what they are? They're Reef brand, and they're leather, and honestly, you gotta wear them for like a month and break them in before they're like, oh, these are the ones. But those are my favorites. I don't like the Reef ones that have like the bottle opener because that part always stays metal and hard and not my favorite. It's not terrible, but it's not my favorite. I've been a long time Apple user myself, but I've had more crashes and weird behavior on my iPhone in the last few years than it ever did before. Yeah, which is weird. Like, I get a new iPhone every year. I don't think I've ever had a crash. I restart my phone about once every 9 months on accident or something. But, everyone has different use cases, and yeah, I'm pro easy. If you can't tell, easy green, easy shrimp and snail. I just want things to be easy. And if a company will do that for me, I like that. So yeah. I never wear anything other than closed-toed lace shoes. Too many accidents around wet water and slipping? Sure. I don't always have the newest model. I typically run a few years behind, so that could be why. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. So I also typically buy pretty much only the Pro version, except for when I had the Mini, which if we're gonna hate on Apple, let's bring the Mini back. I want the Mini back. I don't need a bigger battery. My battery like never goes below like 82% ever because I'm within a charger at all times. And I would love to have a phone that I don't have to take out of my pocket every time I sit down, because it's like my laptop will sit on it or whatever and it's uncomfortable. The mini was perfect, but I need a new mini. I need a, what are we at? 18, 19, whatever it is. I need a 19 mini Pro thingy. I just want stuff to do the thing when I want it without issues. That's all I want too. That's all I want. All I want is to not have issues, especially in productivity tools. Like when I live stream on Windows computers, I had way more problems. Why? Because of just updates and other things. There's more often updates on Windows than on Mac. Have I had problems on Mac? I have had some problems on Mac, but not as many. And so I'm genuinely just trying to make my life easier. Using the same iPhone for 6 years now, 0 issues. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure there's horror stories with everything. But it served me well, and my family well, because we all saw on the same system. And it's not, I could care less about blue or green chat bubbles or anything like that. In fact, that part irritates me. If I was gonna hate on Apple, it would be for that. Like, stop gatekeeping stuff. You've already won. Stop making my life harder. If you make my life harder, I will leave Apple. So the fact that I like one of the dumb things is having to accept Android messages on the computer via text through the app, and I gotta go do stupid extra steps. That should be the native thing. That irritates me. Because then so a great example, set up a laptop for my mother-in-law, and I forgot to do that, and she wasn't getting text from someone that was on Android. They'd show up on the phone, but not on the laptop. They're hurting their brand by gatekeeping with those stupid things. So, yeah. Will my new Gravelvac video get 4.9 million views again? I highly doubt it. YouTube has changed a lot since then. I hope so. But, yeah, I do doubt it. All right, I got to cut this off. I'm going to go all day, and I got work to do. We got corridors to watch spawn back there. They're going crazy. You can see them. All right. That'll do it. I think I've officially angered everyone on the planet. Unintended, but sometimes that's got to happen. Hope you all had a good time hanging out with me. Another 5 memberships from Tyler. Thank you very much, Tyler. He's a new member himself. Very generous of you. Don't forget to buy all of our stuff. Don't forget to watch all of our videos. Like, subscribe, support everybody else in the hobby. Get your arms wet. Compliment somebody. Eat a taco. Snickers is better than Reese's. Apple forever. I love Costco. Thanks for stopping. Ooh, I do like cookies a lot. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.